clear for you?
Yeah, you good, man.
Okay. All right. This is Joseph Wiles, and I'm here um, with founder and CEO of Elevate Marketing, Mr. Nobles Darby. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very good. I just want to thank you for taking your time to bless me with your knowledge of exactly it is that you do.
For sure.
Um,
Thanks for having me.
oh, absolutely. So starting off, why don't you give me a little background about yourself as well as your company?
Okay, sure. So a little bit of background about myself. Born and raised Cleveland, Ohio. Came up through the Maple Heights City School District, which is where you could say I first was introduced to the world of marketing and communications, branding, things of that nature. I was in a program called DECA, which was the Distributive Educational Clubs of America. It was a program that was nationwide, actually, that taught juniors and seniors in high school about basic principles of marketing, hospitality, people that wanted to go into these types of careers. And so through this program, my teacher at the time, I became really fond of marketing. And, I would have constant conversations with them. I would be the student that would stay after class all the time. I was just, I fell in love with the whole idea and concept of marketing. And it's something that, I wanted to explore as I got older. And so to make a long story short, I remember he pulled me to the side after class one day and simply asked, what is it that I wanted to do with marketing? Because in DECA, you had competitions every year at both the junior and senior levels in high school, to where everything you learned throughout the course of that school year, you would put it to practice. And so you would sign up for an area that pertained to marketing. So whether you wanted to do e-commerce, if you wanted to sell something, how were you going to sell it? What was going to be your marketing plan? Or if you were going to go into hospitality management, how would you promote, your hotel or your restaurant, things of that nature. And so we got exposed to all of these different dynamics of marketing, and we would compete at a district level, a regional level, and if you won at the regional level, you would compete at a different site on a national level. And so I would place every year at the district and regional levels, just crush the competition. I mean, just blow them out the water. Like, they didn't even stand a chance.
Okay.
And so, I just loved it. Marketing was just something that it just came natural for me. Some of my friends, like, math just came really easy, science just came really easy. But for me, the creative part, that came to me, just naturally. And so I told him, coming back to the story, I told him, Mr. Griffin, I want to just open up a marketing firm one day. I was 16 years old, not really, knowing what I was stating at that time or what that would look like, 5, 10 years down the road. But that was just a goal that I set for myself, that at the age of 16, one day I'm going to start a marketing business. So that was about 2004. Fast forward 7 years later, Elevate Marketing was founded. I got the vision for the company. I had the branding and the logo done, and it was almost like a dream come true, so to speak. And so we've been a business that's operating now for coming up on our 6th year, and what Elevate Marketing is a brand management and design agency. And so typically what we do is we work with clients in assessing and determining what their needs are as far as branding, so logos, marketing materials, website, what their look is, and then we also design all of those things as well. So that's pretty much how Elevate Marketing has been operating, more so for the past year and a half to 2 years. Didn't start off like that. The focus was more so just on graphic design, and then we really got more so inundated into the actual branding and communications behind all of that as well.
Oh, okay. That sounds great, man. Um, I can see a lot of the passion that you have for what you do. And you mentioned that you received this call, so to speak, at an early age. What is it exactly that you like most about marketing and branding?
What I like about most of marketing and branding, I would say, is really the ability to uh, take someone's idea and be able to articulate it in a way to where whatever the audience is or whoever the audience is, they can automatically catch it. You know, they can gravitate towards it, they can grab it. To give you an example, if you look at you know, some more of the popular brands out these days, such as McDonald's or Coca-Cola, the reason that we embrace and we engage these brands is because of how they make us feel.
Right.
You know, if you notice, a lot of the branding behind McDonald's and Coca-Cola is about enjoying life, being happy, sharing love, things of those nature. And so, us as humans in society, those are things that we gravitate towards. We want to feel happy. We want to enjoy life. We want to just have a good time. And so, brands that make us feel that way, you know, we want to engage with those brands. And so, being someone that's in the marketing and branding industry, as I look at these different brands that are so successful at honing in to a person's psychological and emotional needs, that's what I like to do with the clients that I work with. So if we're talking about a campaign that we're going to do, or if we're talking about colors that we're going to use for their logo or for their website, I really love the communication part of it. Is because through branding, and through good branding, I should say, you can effectively communicate to your audience without you even having a one-on-one conversation with them. And so we may never ever talk to the CEO of McDonald's. We may never ever talk to the CEO of Coca-Cola. But if their branding, you know, gets the point across of what it is that they're trying to convey, then that their communication is successful. And so for anyone that is a business owner, what I really come alive in as far as marketing is concerned is being able to take their message and articulate it and put it in such a creative way that even if their audience never talked to them or engaged them one on one, just by coming in contact with their brand, they know exactly what this brand is about. They know exactly what they're getting. They know how this a particular product or service is going to make them feel. So really, just being able to communicate is what brings it to life for me. You know, the same way an artist uses his palette of different paints, you know, and his different brushes in his kit in order to create a painting, is the same way we use different marketing strategies and tactics in order to present an idea or something of value to an audience. So that's what really makes me come alive, that communication piece, you know, because that communication, you know, that really helps. It makes or breaks the difference between good branding and people just having a brand out there, so to speak.
Okay. So with that being said, what steps does your company take in developing an effective marketing strategy
Okay.
or brand?
So I want to say maybe about 2 years ago, when we really started focusing on the brand management component of our business, we created what's called the Elevate Experience. And so inside of the Elevate Experience, we have what we call the three C's of Elevate, where we consult, create, and construct. And through those processes, we'll one, sit down with a client where we have a detailed consultation, where we understand, okay, well, what is your business? What are the needs that your business has? We'll perform a full SWOT analysis, which basically analyzes a business's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Then, in the same breath, we'll also do a brand analysis so we can understand, well, where is your brand now? And where is it ultimately that you want to take it? And so, by having all of these documents and these things to go off of, their brand analysis, their SWOT analysis, being able to identify what their specific business needs are, we then go into the creation phase of this Elevate Experience, so to speak, and we begin to develop a marketing plan. And so a marketing
Okay.
plan comes complete with the objectives that you're trying to accomplish, as well as the strategies and the tactics that are going to be used in order to achieve set objectives or goals, whatever the case may be. So whether it's a client trying to strengthen their social media presence, okay, well, what are the tactics we're going to use to get them there? Let's say a client is trying to increase their online sales by an additional 10% over the next 3 months. What are the strategies and tactics we're going to use to get them there? And so then we create this fully extensive and outlined marketing plan that, if followed to the letter, it should help the client achieve their intended results. And then at the end of that phase, we then need to evaluate to see, well, how successful was this marketing campaign? how successful was this marketing plan that we put together. We can assess what worked, what didn't work, and then if we need to revamp and do some things differently the next go around, now we have hard information and hard data that we can use to say, hey, these sorts of customers or these type of clients responded well to this as opposed to that. So now that we have something on the table, we can go back to the drawing board, kind of develop a plan again and help those customers achieve those objectives. So it's really through those three phases: the consultation phase, where we assess what their needs are; the creation phase, where we take those needs and combine them with solid and proven strategies and tactics; and then the third phase, where we really evaluate what worked in order to see how effective those things were.
Oh, great. You mentioned a SWOT analysis. How much research goes into, or can you describe the kind of research that goes into an effective SWOT analysis for a
Sure.
company?
So, contrary to popular belief, the big money in marketing is not in the graphic design. It's not in the people that you see that have these platforms where they speak about marketing and branding. The big money in marketing is honestly in research and development. The R&D guys, the people that are willing to put in the man hours to research. What strategies are people trending toward going into the next 5 to 10 years. I actually was reading an article the other day that stated that by the year 2020, the most relevant companies, from a not even just a marketing standpoint, but the most relevant companies will be able to achieve three solid objectives. And what those three objectives were transparency, relevancy, and value. And so through achieving those three objectives and being able to position themselves for consumers to see them in those light, that will help them be more successful than companies who aren't strategizing and who aren't working towards those three specific things. But the only way that I was able to find that out is because I did research. And so the research component cannot be ignored. It can't be overstated. And especially when it comes to a SWOT analysis, because I'll give you an example. Clients will come to the table and they'll say, well, this is what I feel my strengths are. This is what I feel my weaknesses are. These are our potential opportunities. These are our threats. Okay, that's great. But this is only surface value. This is surface level right here. So based on what you've presented, now we have to go against what your industry is doing. What strengths do those in your same industry have that you don't currently possess? Let's weigh your strengths against what the other strengths of these companies that you want to model after or become successful like, what are they doing that's not in your strength list? What are the weaknesses that they've already capitalized on that you're still struggling with? What are the opportunities that you can maximize upon that they've already been doing for about 5, 10 years now? And so research is so critical because you need to understand and to be able to assess the climate of the market that you're in. To be honest, marketing is such a saturated market, and I have so many clients to me, and they want to be successful and they want to, experience certain results in a certain amount of time. But at the end of the day, because your market is so saturated, we have to do research in order to understand what's going to give you a competitive edge versus the thousands of other companies that have already gone before you and are already doing the same thing that you're doing. And so, in analyzing a brand's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we really have to do research to understand where is the climate of the industry now, and ultimately where is it going. Because if we can position ourselves to do the things that are going to make you successful down the road, even if we don't experience the great success, so to speak, right now, we'll be better positioned 5 years from now than companies who are still trying to figure it out. So research is so important just so you can understand where is the industry headed, so that way you can tailor your approach and your business around where the industry is going.
All right. So then it's not only important to do effective research for the company or brand that you're working with, but also the industry and the competition as well, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. You have to study the competition. I once read a quote that said, "You have to study the greats and become greater." And so,
Okay.
I'm not an individual that believes in reinventing the wheel, so to speak. If
Right.
there are proven methods and strategies that have already shown themselves to be effective, then make them work for you. And so, there are, like as I stated before, there may be, I don't care what industry you're in, whether you're a restaurant owner, whether you're a nail tech, whether you own your own hair salon, whether you own your own dance studio, there are countless other business owners in that same industry. And
Right.
there's a reason that they're experiencing a level of success that you're not yet. And it's because they've identified, okay, well, this is what the competition is doing. I don't want to bite off of it, but how can I make it
Okay.
work for me? How can I
Right.
make it work for me? And so the companies that are able to figure out how I can make it work for me, those are the ones that you find, at the top of the Forbes top 500 list, so to speak, or, the small business owner in your community who's been open for 30, 40, 50 years because they found what has worked for them. There's no difference between a Starbucks cup of coffee or a cup of
Mhm.
coffee I can get from Get Go. But
Right.
because Starbucks has found a way to make it work for them, that's why they're worth $330 billion or something ridiculous I just read the other day.
Okay. Good. Briefly, can you tell us about the difference between a marketing strategy and a marketing campaign?
Okay. So, very good question, because a marketing strategy is uh, a very specific tool you'll utilize, so to speak, in order to make your marketing successful. I'll give you an example. So let's say I have a marketing campaign, and my campaign is to increase awareness for my brand or for my business.
Okay.
Now, that's my campaign. So inside of my campaign, I'll have, some type of graphics, to put out there on maybe social media, so to speak. But that's my strategy. So now that I have these tools I want to implement, now I need solid strategies. And so if I want to increase awareness, social media is a strategy. So I can say, hey, I'm going to post on Instagram uh, every 3 hours, something
Okay.
in regards to my marketing campaign. That's a strategy. Or I'm going to purchase Facebook ads and run them for a period of 2 weeks. That's my strategy. And so your strategy is just being able to identify, well, what tools will I be able to utilize as part of leading to the success of my overall campaign? Because inside of any successful marketing campaign, or you could even look at political campaigns, they're solid strategies. Those strategies would be, well, what time do we play an ad? On what channel are we playing this ad? How many ads are we running on this network as opposed to that network? How much dollars am I spending in advertisement on Facebook versus advertisement on Instagram? What demographic am I going for on Twitter that may not be on LinkedIn? And so you have to understand, inside of your campaign, you have to have a solid strategy because honestly, the campaign doesn't make itself, it's the strategies that make that campaign.
Good. So when at what point does a campaign begin? Is it right from the inception of the idea? What thought goes into
Mm-hmm.
when a campaign should actually begin to make it uh, reach?
Okay. So in regards to a campaign, I would have to say that it would begin from inception because the idea or the thought for it has to come from somewhere. And so now that we have an idea or a thought, it's the same way that, you look at a designer of a vehicle. He first had to conceive the vision of the car in his mind, and then he was able to put the pieces together to put wheels on that vehicle. So eventually, it would be the cars that we drive today. And so, in the same way, a campaign begins from inception because you have to have the idea. But now, once you have the idea, now I can start formulating that idea into a way it makes sense. Okay, so once I get the idea for my campaign, now I have to think about, okay, well, what's a good time? When is this campaign for now? Is it for later? And based upon the time that I set to that campaign, now I can develop my campaign strategies. And I can say, okay, if I'm going to run it in 3 to 6 months, then these are the things I need to be doing now so that in 3 to 6 months, I have a successful launch of my campaign. And then my campaign is able to sustain itself, for the full duration. So I would say that it definitely begins with the idea of it, because once you have the idea, then you can start, then you can begin to consider, well, what time do I need to make it happen? And then once I know what time I need to make it happen, I can identify what things I need to do so that it's executed when that time comes.
Okay. Last question, Mr. Darby.
Oh man, this was getting good. Last question already?
Yeah, last question because I am on a time limit with this
Okay.
assignment. But what type of training do you recommend for those who are coming into this field?
Trainings, I would definitely recommend. The beauty about the age that we live in is digital, right? And so you can subscribe to so many different webinars and free online teleclasses. You can get so many different PDFs and ebooks on how to boost your Instagram followers, to how to boost your online sales. One of the brands that I pretty much like to get a lot of information from is called HubSpot. HubSpot, I believe they're an agency. They have locations all across the country, really across the world, to be honest. And I subscribe to their email listing. That's another good thing. Subscribe to email listing of reputable companies in your industry, so that way whatever information they're putting out there, you can take advantage of it. So if they're offering a free class, online, or if they're offering a free conference call, if they're, maybe coming to your area and it may be a couple bucks to go hear them speak, on what it is that they're doing, invest in those things, because ultimately the success of your business is going to be tied into how much you invest, not just from a research standpoint, but also from a monetary standpoint as well. And so I would just recommend, don't I'm not somebody that is against school, but college was just not for me. I'm one of those people that I learn more so being hands-on and being around it day to day. I can touch it, I can feel it. And so I would say for those of you that really want to learn and you're more so a hands-on learner, find workshops, find conferences, find summits and seminars, sign up for those webinars, subscribe to those email listings, watch those YouTube videos that these
Right.
companies put out. You can learn so much just by watching, a 5 to 10 minute video on YouTube, and subscribing to some of these email listings and watching these videos. It can really put you over the top versus the competition who may not be doing those types of things.
So you recommend a lot of seminars, webinars, conferences of that magnitude. Are there any certifications
Hmm.
that you recommend? I know you mentioned HubSpot.
Hmm.
I know Hootsuite offers a certification. Are
Hmm.
there any certifications that you would recommend?
Coming back to HubSpot, they actually have a good program for entrepreneurs. I can't remember the exact name of what it is, but they basically look for small businesses who they can partner with, who have a promising presence on social media. So basically, what they do is they scout your Facebook page, they scout your Instagram page, they scout your website, and they identify what are some key areas. If you go through this training, I believe it's a 6 weeks training. It's almost like an academy, so to speak. It's You have to pay for it, but they take you through this academy, and by the end of this academy, they're able to boost your online presence, create more brand awareness for you. They share success stories of some of the business owners that they've worked with and have taken through this academy. One company that they talked about went from a $50,000 a year to $150,000 a year company after going through this 6 week training. And so I would say, in terms of certifications or just being a part of a program where it has proven results, definitely check out the HubSpot Academy as well. I can't remember the exact name, but that's something solid that they do for sure. Certifications are always good. They definitely don't hurt. But in this industry, honestly, it's people are what I've discovered in my time in marketing and branding is that people really look for somebody who can think outside of the box. They
Right.
may not want somebody that has the certification or has all of the degrees. They more so want somebody that, they don't need the paper to be validated, but because of how their mind works. But, I definitely don't, knock those that have certifications, but definitely take advantage of some of these academies and these workshops. Some of these workshops, will give you like a certificate or something to the effect that you attended, or some online classes and things of that nature.
And would that be something as an employer that you may look for on a resume?
For me, I think I would, as an employer, I would want to have a good balance. So I would want to have those that have the formal education, depending on what position I'm hiring for. I
Okay.
feel I would definitely need somebody that has certain credentials, and a certain understanding, at least at a base level. You can
Okay.
teach, your company culture and how you like to do things, but I feel that, for certain positions inside of a company, you definitely need people that have the paper to back it up, so to speak.
Okay. Well, Mr. Darby, I want to thank you for your time. You've been very insightful and a very great interview.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it. Anytime, anytime. This one was on the house.
All right. I appreciate it. All right. I'm going to stop this broadcast now.